We need to talk. Every single week, writers slide into my DMs complaining that people keep bailing after chapter 1. Help, they cry. But the harsh truth is that readers actually owe you nothing. They gave you 5 minutes and you blew it. Today, we're dissecting 9 fatal sins that make strangers throw your novel across the room before they've even met chapter 2. And if you can murder these mistakes, then you will keep eyeballs glued right through to the end. Why should you listen to me? I'm Patrick, and I have either personally edited or advised editors on hundreds of novels and spent over a decade helping authors launch their books, and many of which have landed traditional deals, won awards, and helped thousands of indie clients to stop crying over poor sales and start selling books and actually launching their writing careers. Also, after all of that, I still like reading for fun, so that must count for something. Right, kettle on, manuscript open. Let's get straight into the first sin, what I call the snooze button opening. Emma woke up. Uh-oh, if this is your first line, and let's face it, it could double as a Fitbit notification, well, you've lost already. Readers crave disorientation with purpose. They need a question that pulls them forward. So let's take a couple of examples. Here's the before. Emma's alarm beeped 6 a.m. She yawned and rubbed her eyes. Boring. The after. At 6 a.m., Emma's phone screamed, "Last day to live, make it count." So do you see the difference there? We start with a puzzle. And if this is happening in your book, then here is a quick rescue drill. First step is delete every waking up, weather, mirror gazing opener in your document. Second, start one beat before or after a disruption. An explosion, an ultimatum, a stolen burrito, it's entirely your call. This is a really important distinction, so let me give you another example. One beat before the disruption, Jada's finger hovered over the red send button. Once this email left her outbox, the board would know she'd stolen $3 million. Here we feel the fuse has been lit, but the explosion hasn't happened yet, and readers are going to race on to see the fallout. One beat after the disruption would be the smoke alarm still shrieked as Marcos stumbled out of the kitchen, clutching the pan that used to contain his roommate's burrito. Now just a smouldering, unrecognizable mush. The catastrophe has already happened. We join the character mid-chaos, and we need answers. What blew up? Why? And what on earth is going to happen next? Finally, you need to ask yourself, what burning question does my first paragraph raise? If it's what brand of toothpaste, then it's time for a rewrite. The next sin is that there are 0 stakes by page 3. So if you have no stakes, then you have no heartbeat. If the worst that can happen is somebody feels a bit awkward at a brunch, well then your reader is already putting your book down and getting ready to doom scroll Netflix options. You need to pass what I call the guts test. By the end of chapter 1, the protagonist must either risk losing something vital, life, love, freedom, or a £100 Starbucks card, or they need to glimpse an opportunity that's so shiny it blinds them. And here is how to audit what you have so far. You want to highlight every consequence word: die, fired, dumped, arrested. And if you can't find at least 2, well then you really need to raise the stakes or invent a countdown of some sort. Third sin is that characters are still in shadow. Have you ever binged a show just because the lead was messy but intriguing or just lovable? And the same applies for novels. If readers don't grasp a main character's desire or flaw by page 5, well then they just bail. And so here is the formula you want to use. If you have a want plus a wound plus a quirk, you get an instant bond from your readers. To go deeper on this, a want is a surface goal, something like get the job. A wound is an emotional bruise. Dad said she'd fail. And a quirk is something that adds a bit of spice to the character. They stress bake bacon cupcakes, right? It's something that just really grabs your attention. So let me give you an example. Marco wants the last bioluminescent orchid so that he can cure his sister. He's terrified of jungles since the avalanche, he never swears and frequently quotes Shakespeare. This would hook your reader. It would certainly hook me. And here is how to audit. Can a stranger reading only chapter 1 answer, what does the hero want? What's broken? And why are they fun at parties? Why would I want to hang out with this character? If the answer is no, then you need to rewrite your intro scene. Of course, to get readers to chapter 1 in the first place, you first need an eye-catching cover. So let me give you one for free. Yes, there is a link below. Just fill out the details. It takes a maximum of 5 minutes, and we will send you a free book cover. This can be for a book you are currently working on or one you have already published. There's no obligation, and if you like it, then we can design it for you and even make some tweaks. Don't miss out on this. It is really brilliant. The link is in the description down below. Sin number 4 is info dump indigestion. Don't get me wrong, your Ancient Dragon Chronicle is epic, but packing it into a lone block of text is like squeezing the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy onto a post-it note. Every majestic detail just gets flattened into static. So instead, use the iceberg rule. 90% of world building sits underwater. You want to show 10% tops in chapter 1, and only when required for that scene's tension. Here is the practical fix. Open a second Word document and paste every chunk of backstory that you info dumped, and instead now drip one sentence at a time through future chapters, and only when the plot is absolutely begging for it. And here are some signal words that you need to make sure you nuke as soon as you see them. Centuries ago, in the kingdom of, little did he know. All of these are a neon sign for readers to exit. Let's move on to sin number 5, and this is point of view and tense Whiplash. An example of this would be where one sentence has us hearing Jada's inner thoughts in the first person. Then the very next would switch to a distant third person camera. And a few lines later, we jump into a present tense flashback. That constant point of view and tense shifting makes readers feel queasy. So here is how you can stabilize your manuscript. You want to pick one point of view for chapter 1. If you insist on multi-POV, switch only at solid scene breaks with a clear header. You also want to pick a tense. Make a contract with yourself, sign it, and honor it. Past tense is default, present is fine, if, of course, you don't go switching around. And then you also want to run a pronoun scan. Read aloud only I, he, she verbs. Any flicker, you need an edit. Sin number 6 is the wall of text. This is something you have to think about when it comes to ebooks. It's not such an issue with paperbacks, but it does still apply. No one, and I repeat, no one likes a great big wall of text. But let's think about it in relation to phones or Kindles even. The screens are quite small. Some have narrow screens, especially on a phone. One 15-line paragraph is going to look like a grey brick. So you need to break it up or your readers are going to bail swiftly. And here are some good spacing rules to keep in mind for ebooks. Paragraph length, 4 lines max on a desktop, is going to be 2 lines on a phone. Emotional or action shift, add a blank line. And with dialogue, if there's a new speaker, a new line, well then think ping pong. Print page 1 and hold it at arm's length. If it resembles a solid slab of ink, you need to carve your text into smaller chunks until white space lets the words breathe. Okay, sin number 7 is dialogue that's actually exposition. And don't pretend like you're not guilty of this, because we're all guilty of this. And this would be where 2 characters walk into a bar, recite their CVs, and explain the political system. Congratulations, you've written a Wikipedia article in costume. Instead, use what I call the eavesdrop trick. Imagine a reader overhears the conversation from the next booth. If both voices state facts, the speakers already know it's fake. So here's an example. Here's the before. As you know, Captain, the hyperdrive failed 3 hours ago, and we're drifting towards black hole Z47. You know, doesn't really grab me. It's not great. Let's have another version of it. Hear that hum? That's the hyperdrive begging for mercy. It just captures your attention. It's much better. So when you are in revision, delete, as you know, and anything after it that smells like briefing notes. Okay, sin number 8. So we're really getting deep now into some of the sins that we see so regularly. This one is the genre bait and switch. And with most of these, people have no idea that they're making them. But this one in particular, we catch very often. This is where the cover screams rom-com, the blurb promises banter, and the first chapter opens with a serial killer autopsy. Oh, I don't know about you, but this gives me whiplash. And the book suddenly goes back on the shelf. So what you need is a genre alignment checklist. First, you need the mood. The opening scene should echo the genre vibe. Cozy, gritty, whimsical. You need tropes. At least one recognizable trope, breadcrumb, enemies to lovers, spaceship takes off, dead body, whatever signals the promise of that genre. And language. You need to think about the word choice and make sure that it matches the target audience. If you're dropping F-bombs in a children's fantasy, their parents will be hunting you down right away. Run the first 1,000 words past 3 genre diehards. If they can't determine your shelf category, then it's time to recalibrate. Finally, we are at sin number 9. These are the technical tripwires. These are typos, comma crimes, or bizarre formatting that yank readers right out of the story. And the sad truth is that many casual buyers use the look inside sample. One typo there and it's goodbye sale. So here is the bare minimum hygiene routine you need for your grammar and your spelling. You have to do a spell checker pass. Yes, even you. No matter how good your grammar is, you will have made a mistake. I guarantee it. I've never come across a manuscript that didn't. Use the text-to-speech listen function, and it's amazing for catching missing words. I really think this one is superb. It's so simple and more people should use it. And get at least one beta reader who preferably owns the paperback edition of Elements of Style and actually likes it. But let's face it, editing your work is hard. Writing a book is hard. You need a sidekick who can grab you by the hand and guide you to the finish line with a professionally published book in your hand. We do all of that for you and even get your book into bookstores. Yes, physically on the shelves for people to buy. It all starts with professional editing. So to have your book professionally edited, click the link below to find out how you can work with us to have your manuscript polished to perfection. So if any of those 9 sins triggered sweaty flashbacks to your current draft, then make sure you subscribe for more great tips like this and confess your worst opening chapter crime in the comments down below. I will roast 3 brave volunteers in a future video, free developmental notes, but there will be zero mercy. So give me the details in the comments down below if you dare. Now, if you need a tangible handhold, then check out the links below to work with us, and you would like a free cover design, then sign up below for that using the links. YouTube's algorithm thinks you'll enjoy the video floating right here, and I would trust it. They are very clever folks over at YouTube. So click it before your coffee goes cold.